So I went to the cinemas yesterday to see Return to Silent Hill. Being a huge fan of the Silent Hill 2 video game, both original and the remake, I held hope that this film would be a great, faithful adaptation. Instead, I walked out and it just made me feel mad at the direction this movie took. What was meant to be a one-to-one recreation, as said by Christoph Gans, who claims it's faithful, instead just turned into a sloppy mess that only barely treaded the line of the game. And now we'll get into reasons why I think this movie is just one of the most terrible adaptations of a video game. Just the fact that it was made into a movie, already I knew it wasn't going to be good. But I feel like it would benefit from a series. Series like Fallout have done so well because of the direction they took, making it into a longer series. Silent Hill 2 being a standalone series would help it so much with just everything. This includes just character development that was completely negated in this movie, by the way, and those emotional beats that all the audience playing the games would be like, whoa, but instead this movie just skipped kind of over them or skipped straight to it, like rushed it a lot, so it didn't have that emotional impact as the games did, which is really disappointing. Although feeling quite disappointed with how the movie turned out, it did have some positives, if I had to pick some. Showing James's guilt and depression, the tone of the film was good. Like, it wasn't great, but you could see it. Like, it had that theme in the game, and it had that theme in the movie, which is honestly as good as it's gonna get. You had flashbacks of Mary, which didn't need to happen, but because they happened, it turned out okay. It could have been a lot worse, I guess. And having the casting choice of Evie Templeton, where if you didn't know, voiced Laura in the remake, so to have her be the actor, I think was pretty good. She just wasn't utilized that well, and I'll get into that later, but like, I like that casting choice. There could have been more, definitely could. At least choosing her brought that familiarity and the realness to Laura's character that it desperately needed, but still could have gotten a better script. Honestly, a good actor just didn't portray it that well as I thought. So my last positive thing would probably be in the set pieces, how they show the atmosphere of Silent Hill. The games have it. I'm glad they did it for this movie again from the first movie. But like, that's the bare minimum. There's not many good things to say about this movie. It just makes me mad. But now I'm going to say the negatives, which mainly is the characters. They felt so ripped off. It was just all about James. And I wish it was a series, because then you could flesh out all those characters and make probably James's character development even better. But no, we just got James. And now I'm going to go through each character and their story in the film compared to the games. Okay, so first I'm going to talk about the main character, James, who was portrayed by Jeremy Irvine. I felt his character was severely lacking in so many fields compared to the game. So, spoilers ahead, by the way. The end revelation of him killing Mary in the games is like, what? Like, it's shocking. And he does it to end her suffering, and because he's so sick of her, like, he's so done dealing with her because she lashes out at him when he's trying to take care of her. So he makes his own decision to kill her, but in the movie, she asks him to do it, which completely takes away some of the guilt. Like, you'd still feel guilty, but she also asks him to do it. But in the games, he just makes that decision himself, which would add so much impact to his character, and of that moment, of that realization when he puts in the tape at the end of the game and then realize what he's done. And then you're just like, whoa. But in the movie, she's just like, "Oh, kill me," and he's like, "Okay," and then it's just like whatever. So I didn't like how they did that, and it just blown off any emotional impact, and just felt so soulless. Honestly, near the end, another scene that annoyed me was that having the big revelation that Mary's been dead for months. Like, in the film, they consider that a shocking revelation. It's like, oh crap, Mary's been dead all this time. But for those, it's like appealing to the fans because people who've already played the games already knew that, and they imply that straight from the start. In the letter, in how James wishes she was back. Like, it's all said from the start of the game. And people can probably imply that watching this movie, not having played the games. But then it's like, oh, Mary's been dead for months. Yeah, we already knew that. It's not that shocking. It's not a twist. Like, it's just, it's just bad. And then shortly after that scene, James is like, oh shit, she's been dead for months. And then he has a whole personality shift. And because Maria is with him, instead of having that scene in the games where Maria is lacking behind, James is trying to save her, and Maria dies to Pyramid Head, he chooses to leave her behind and allow her to die because he realized what she was. Which is so out of character. If you've played the games, you know that even after her death, he's actually distraught about it. But in the film, he doesn't give a shit and allows her to die anyway. Like, it's just, it feels so disconnected for me, who has played the games and sees how James really is, and then for him to be portrayed in that scene is just so disappointing. Considering also in the games how Maria dies around like 2 or 3 times to imply that Mary's dead and to show the impact of her death on James's psyche throughout the entire game. Just for her to kind of die there, and then James allows her to die, and it's just once. You see a very short window of him and Maria just being together until Maria's dead, and it's just that. They didn't bring back Maria and have her die again to show how broken James is from that moment. It just isn't shown very well. Even so, spoilers for the ending, but like, so this film chooses to pick the in water ending, which is fine, but it's like there's still no reason to have Maria die here. Even because both in water and the leave endings in the game, you're still devoted to Mary, whereas the Maria ending, you're devoted to Maria. But even if you're on the path to doing the Mary endings, you're still not a bitch to Maria like James was in the film. Like, it just makes no sense. James shows no disdain towards Maria at all. Sure, she comes quite strong, like, very flirty towards him and everything, but James isn't, like, just a straight up asshole to her for no reason, and just allows her to die in the film. Like, I just can't fathom why they chose to do that in this film, and it's just, it annoys me so much. So right from the start of the film, it's said that James is an artist when he first meets Mary, and I feel like they didn't have to do that at all. In the games, it isn't said what his occupation is, so then in the movie they're just like, oh, we'll make him an artist and have Mary be his muse for all of his artistry. But like, it was so unnecessary. They didn't have him be an artist in the games because it wasn't necessary to the overall plot to have him be an artist and to have him be that way just to show how much he loves Maria by painting her. Like, you should just be able to trust James that he loves his wife. Like, you don't need proof, you don't need evidence that James loves her. And this is what a lot of movies do nowadays. It's like they have to spoon feed you everything. You can't just imply things. Like, they don't drop subtle hints anymore for you to kind of get it. They just straight up give it to you. Like, and they did this so much in this film, and it's so annoying. What made Silent Hill 2 so special was all these tiny little details, all these moments that you're just like, oh crap. Like, but in the movie, it's like, yeah, whatever. Like, especially those who's played the games like me, you see how there's so much nonsense in this movie that didn't need to happen, and it's absolute crap. And they should have saved that time for literally so much things they could have improved on. Well, whatever. So now to talk about Mary, who was portrayed by Hannah Emily Anderson. I thought the character in this film, like how she was portrayed, is fine, but she they had to include having a backstory for her, which didn't need to happen. In the games, she's dead and she just got sick and she dies. That's fine. People get sick randomly. You can be as healthy as you can be and still just get a sickness like cancer. Like, you can't change that. There's no reason for you to get cancer, you just get it. But in this film, it's like, oh, she's a part of this cult-like group that saved her, and now they're doing all this ritual type stuff, and from all the blood and all the things are ejecting inside of her, she got sick from that. Like, they didn't need to have a reason for that, nor do they need to include them at all because it makes no sense in the story, and it's just so pointless and useless, and it's just. It makes me so mad talking about it because it didn't need to happen to Mary's character at all. Like, that whole story that they came up with for her, it's so pointless. She could have just been sick, had cancer, and the result still would have been the same. Instead, they had to include all this extra, like, backstory that is completely irrelevant just for her to be sick. And that's its only plot device. When you could have just had her be sick, because that's literally what happens in everyday life. You just get sick sometimes. Like, I don't get it. It could have been way better. And they made her father be like the leader of the group before he died, but her father isn't even talked about in the games because it's not relevant. So I don't get why it's relevant in the movie now. Because, oh, her father's leader of this group, so now she's a part of this group, and that's how she got sick. And that's why James is kind of aggressive at her during the film. Like, it makes no sense. Because it's bad. It's bad writing. Okay, now we talk about Angela, who, in my opinion, in the games, is probably one of the best character arcs ever. Not in gaming, just Silent Hill 2. But just easily one of the most highly developed characters, and the one you feel most invested in. So I was actually quite concerned, but also hopeful that they would do her story justice, and sad to say, I don't think they did. So she was portrayed by Hannah Emily Anderson, who then plays Mary, and then also Maria. Having her play Mary and Maria is fine, like that's a good choice, because they're technically the same person. But to also cast her as Angela, I feel like was a complete step in the wrong direction. Like, I'd rather a different actor do it just so she can put more effort towards the character. Whereas, I'm sure the script didn't give Angela enough time for her story, and she probably did the best she could, honestly. But I would have preferred a different actor do it so they can put more time towards their character and just kind of flesh it out more. Because I feel like she's such a kind of a forgettable character in the story. And you don't know why she's at all these different locations, and you don't know why all this is happening. And I feel like even when you get to the meat of her story, it's kind of still a bit confusing with what the scripts were giving her, with what the lines that she had to say, the scenes she was acting in. Her story still felt confusing to me, whereas in the game, like, traumatizing and just really shows the impact it had on her, especially in the abstract daddy fight in the game, which in the movie, it's just a cameo. Like, he's in it, and then he's like off in 5 seconds. In the games, it's hard to put like boss fights then in TV or movies, But like in the games, you have a whole boss fight and you get to learn about her story throughout it, and it's such an art form. I love that boss fight so much because you get to learn so much about her character and what she's been through. Whereas in the movie, they just don't give that to her, and I'm really annoyed by that because she's one of the characters that I felt like had such a big impact in the games that they just didn't do her any justice, and it's really annoying to see. I felt like a series could benefit her character because instead of just having a 2 hour film where it's really all about James and all the side characters get pushed aside hard, make a series and have an episode dedicated to her, or have like flesh out her story more, or like actually have it mean something, especially to James's story, who is the protagonist. But they don't show that in the movie at all. They don't show the importance of any of the characters' stories that contribute to James's at all. And it's just annoying. Because it's like, as well as James, what makes Silent Hill 2 also Silent Hill 2 is the characters. And they don't do them any justice. Especially Angela, which I was like interested to see how they would do hers. And it's so disappointing that they did nothing. They did glimpse at what she's been through, but they just didn't give enough. Like, I wanted kind of more, because her story is genuinely interesting. Like, and especially when James decides to kill himself at the end of the movie because of the in-water ending, Angela's story mainly contributes to that. Like, sure, in the games, you experience all their stories, but, like, you'll get given the knife, and that's kind of the indicator on getting the in-water ending. And the fact that her story was just such a lack of didn't make much sense for him to do in water. Like, yes, he was depressed and sad and, like, in denial until he realized that he killed her and then kills himself. But Angela's story contributes to that so much, and they didn't utilize it. It's annoying. And they even showed the scene at the end where the hotel is on fire. And in the games, that's you get explained that that's what Angela sees. Because every single character sees Silent Hill differently, but then they just made them all see the same thing. They don't even at all hint that that's what Angela sees. It's just on fire and that's it. You get no explanation as to why it's that way. And it's just, like, there's no substance to any of it. It's just thrown in. It's like they looked at Silent Hill 2, watched like a whole playthrough without even really sucking in the information. Just kind of looked at it and it's like, oh, let's just add it in, even though we have no clue what it even means. Like, it's just thrown in, it's sloppy, it's no direction whatsoever. Like, justice to Angela. So, Laura, who is portrayed by Evie Templeton, which I was quite excited to see her performance in this film, hoping that it would match her performance in the Silent Hill 2 game, but then was severely disappointed. So firstly, I felt like Laura's story contributes so much to Mary, because they have the relation of Mary always taking care of Laura and looking after her and becoming friends with her. That was like the driving force for Laura's story about trying to find Mary just like James is. But they didn't have them be connected at all in this film. They're both separate with their own separate stories that have never met each other before. And because of that, what's the point of Laura? Her existence shouldn't even be in this film if her story isn't at all related to Mary. Like, in the games, it makes sense why Laura has disdain to James after first meeting him and always tries to run away and hates him. It makes sense because she's had relations with Mary and understands what James did to her. Or like how James reacts around her, and she has read all these letters from Mary proving that they were friends, but they completely throw away her story. She's just some creepy girl who has this little baby and doesn't go in depth about anything about why she's in Silent Hill in the first place, about what she even is, because it honestly doesn't seem like a human girl at the end of the film, and it's just lacking of a good story. Like, come on now. Like, you include all these side characters because they're in the games, and you can't give them all their stories that they deserve from the games. You just have them thrown in there, be on screen for maybe 5 or 10 minutes throughout the entire film, and then that's kind of it. Like, they're just more cameos than anything. They don't serve any purpose whatsoever. And especially Laura, who's also meant to be the plot device that moves it forward. So then James can go towards the hospital, goes towards the historical society, and she doesn't do that. They just plop some enemies, so James moves around the place to go to the set locations, to the core places, and then just call it a day. Like, what's the point of the side characters if you're not going to utilize them and actually contribute to James's story? And because she's meant to be bratty towards James, I don't get why, when they first meet, she was friendly. Like, because they first meet in the games, in the apartments, when James is trying to finds a key, and then Laura purposely pushes it away and runs away. And she's just running like a normal kid. She doesn't think there's monsters anywhere, because that's not what she sees. Whereas in the movie, they have her be scared and alone, and immediately become friends with James right outside the apartments after James gets out. Like, her character isn't what it is in the games at all. It's a complete 180. She has no story to Mary, just no story at all. She's just some creepy evil girl, and she doesn't do anything to enhance the plot in any way. It's just a cameo thrown in there to please the fans. Like, really? Okay, so now we have Eddie, who was portrayed by Pierce Egan, and although most characters, I've said, have just been negative things about how they're just cameos thrown in, Eddie possibly got the worst treatment of them all. At least Laura and Angela appeared multiple times throughout the film. Eddie appears once. The first time you meet him in the games is the first time you meet him in the film, and all he's doing is vomiting, which in the games, he's vomiting because what he sees, he just killed somebody and then is vomiting because he got sick after seeing their corpse and after murdering them. It makes sense about why he's doing what he's doing, about why he's even in the bathroom throwing up in the first place. Whereas in the movie, he's just throwing up for kind of no reason, and then he sees James, suddenly he's all better. And then they don't explain his motivations as to why he's there. They do not explain how it impacts James's story at all, about what the connection is there, like how they do in the games. And all he does is follow James to meet Laura, and then just leaves. Like, that's it. That's it for the entire film. You get nothing. Every single character's story gets basically cut entirely from the film. And especially with Eddie's case, he gets the most cameo out of all of them. Because he's just placed just to fit the games. It's like Eddie without any of the substance. And Pierce Egan is fine. Like, he's probably a good actor. I just don't like him playing Eddie, who's meant to be, like, this early 20s kid. And he's, like, in his 40s, late 40s or something. And it feels so disconnected. And I just felt wasn't the best choice for him. But even if they picked an actor that fit who Eddie looked like and how he acted, it still would have not have made a difference. Because with the script that he got given, he's in it for 5 minutes of the entire film and immediately forgotten about. By the end of the film, anyone who hasn't played the games, or anyone who maybe has, and then watches the movie, you're gonna forget Eddie was even in the film. He was in it for that short amount of time. And it's so disappointing. Because I would have loved to see more characters actually have their stories be integrated in the film. But because it's shortened down to a 2-hour film, they only focus on James instead of the other characters, and the other characters and James together make up Silent Hill 2, not just James. And because their storylines are somewhat connected to James's, by having them be completely cut, James's story feels so lacking, and I feel like there's parts that are missing in James's story in the film because it isn't explained through the characters. They should have utilized the characters when they're putting them in the movie. There's no point including the characters. They're not going to do anything but walk around and say shitty dialogue lines. Like, I don't get why they were even included in the first place. It's like they just plopped them in to appease the fans and then called it a day and didn't really care that much about actually making those characters valuable to the plot, making them interesting, and just having them all just be really forgettable. And it's so annoying, it makes me mad, and this is why the movie is just lacking in every single field. Okay, so now we have the final character, Maria, who is also played by Anderson. And I know everyone, when watching the trailer, despised how she looks like some cosplayer, but I honestly thought her performance was maybe the best of the entire film. Like Irvine's portrayal of James was alright, and since he's the protagonist, he should have the best one. But Maria honestly didn't do that bad. I felt like the worst of Maria was that she got a lack of an appearance. So, in the games, you meet Maria at the port, at the pier, right at the end, and have this, like, moment with her. Whereas in the film, she's kind of just chucked in this, like, hedge maze that James tries to navigate, and so that steals a lot of attention away from her impact on the story and her introduction. But I think her portrayal of her being like this cleany, flirty girl that tries to steer James away from Mary and towards her, I feel like she'd done a pretty good job. I just felt like they killed her off way too early. They didn't have her come back and then die again to show the impact it has on James. I felt like she did the best she could with what she got, really. Like, she did alright, and I think she probably done the best performance, but, like, we needed more. Maria was such a vital part of the story, as do all the characters, really, and she just didn't shine as much as I thought she would. Like, yes, she doesn't look the best. Her performance was really good, though. I just need more of it. And then I probably would have liked the film more if Maria maybe stuck around a bit longer, actually showed her impact on James by having her die over and over. Like, but they didn't do that. They allowed James to kill her off, and then she doesn't come back. Like, what's the point of her character? She was just around to just be this flirty Mary, which, yes, that's what she is in the games, but, like, trust me, when you see the movie, you'll see what I mean. She's just a lessened version of what Maria could have been in this film. And she has that scene in between meeting her and going to the Brookhaven Hospital where she takes you to Heaven's Night, and you get a moment with her and James, and her trying to get into James's mind and manipulate him, and that's cut entirely from the film. So whatever, just not include any scenes with Maria, have it be completely worthless, and just add no real impact on the film apart from following James around the entire film. As soon as she gets introduced, she's the longest character on the screen that isn't James. At least that's something, but doesn't matter if she gets killed off for no real reason, and she's just kind of worthless. So this is my overall summary of the film, of just things I felt like could have been improved upon if my negative comments about every character wasn't enough. So first, Pyramid Head, the most probably memorable other than James character from Silent Hill franchise. I felt like he wasn't done any justice. I felt Pyramid Head was much better in the first Silent Hill film, the 2006 one, than this one, because he barely appears in it, like, as much as you'd think into our film. He's maybe in it for, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes on different moments. And I thought James at the end of the film, before he meets Mary again at the top of the hotel, I thought he would get the boss fight with the duo Pyramid Heads, and then Maria is there as well. I thought they would include that, and they decided not to, and I felt like that was a complete and utter failure. Like, that duo Pyramid Head says so much about James's character, and the fact that James stands up to it, knowing that Pyramid Head is just a manifestation of him wanting to be punished for what he did to Mary. And you get none of that in the film. Like, they don't explain why Pyramid exists, why he's in James's world, why he does what he does. Like, it's just not explained. They don't explain anything. They explain all the obvious details that people can easily just imply about. And then things like this that would have had great dialogue in the game and such a great scene, especially right before the final boss fight, and you don't include it in the film. It's so disappointing. So many things about this film are disappointing. It's just they cut out the best bits and they really just put a sponge over Silent Hill 2, squished out all the importance about it, about every tiny thing that overall mattered in the overall story, and then just threw it away. Like, it's so pointless. And then major areas like the Toluca prison, the labyrinth, him rafting on Toluca Lake to get to the hotel, those were completely negated. Sure, if you have a short movie, you can't include everything, I guess, which is why a series would have worked better. But, like, the importance of him going to Toluca prison, fighting the abstract daddy, when he ends up just doing that in a whole different location, and then the labyrinth where he goes and then kills Eddie. Like, there's so many important moments in that, and they didn't include those areas. And then for him to get to the hotel, instead of rafting across Toluca Lake, which made for such a good moment in the game, they just kind of had him just be washed up ashore in front of the hotel while it's burning, which is from Angela's story that they don't explain at all. Like, it's just... it makes me mad. It really does make me mad. And it's like, if you really didn't want to include those areas, or if you felt like maybe it was worthless in the games, even though for someone who's played the games, they definitely were not. But if you really want to cut it from the film, at least give that amount of time that you would have spent doing those scenes to then have another character be maybe more fleshed out, give some more backstory, just do anything else. Instead, don't waste our time with... if you're going to cut something from the main game that mattered so much to so many people who played it, or just to the story in general, actually make it worthwhile. Instead, you just wasted our time. And then some tiny details I had some issues with. So you had Mary's emotional letter right from the start of the game that they just wrote on like a little napkin that James randomly got in his apartment, and it made it just it looked like very low budget material. Like, yes, this film was low budget, but this really looked like they had no money put into this letter at all. It was just like wrote on a little napkin that's very smudged, and it's just like, what? That is like the perfect start to the game. And to have James start the game right in the parking lot of the observation deck right before Silent Hill, it's perfect because you don't need anything else to really think about how he got there and why he's there, because you learn throughout the game. Whereas the film, it's like spoon feeds you everything about why he's there, and suddenly he's there, and you're just like, oh, I know he's there now, but it's like, to understand throughout the film is the fun part of it. That's why I feel like game adaptations into movies, I feel like, is just impossible. You can't do it. It just doesn't work. Though making a game into a series like Fallout that succeeded massively, I feel like it's probably the best you could do. And even then, play the games. The games are just better. There's no point. I don't get with all these video game adaptations with making all these games into movies when they will never work. They just don't work. Making them into a series might work. Fallout has definitely proven that they could work, but movies they can't. Because they're not given enough time to flesh any of the best bits about gaming in general. Because games go for longer than movies, and they give you enough time to understand everything. Whereas movies, you're given a set time limit. You can only have so many hours in movies, like you're not going to make a 20-hour movie. Like, whereas games, you can go up to like 100 hours sometimes. Like, you're given that time. Whereas movies, you're not. You have to understand the entire story in like 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Like, it's just, they could have done so much more with this movie, and I'm disappointed they didn't. And as soon as I immediately saw it was going to be a movie, I already knew it was gonna be kind of bad. I had low expectations for this movie. Somehow, it was worse than that. Like, it's just, it blindsides me. And then I just thought of another cutscene so right after you exit the apartments and go to Heaven's Night and whatever, you also go to either the cinema in the remake or the bowling alley in the original game. And those kind of break up the moments of running around, trying to kill all these monsters. It kind of gives you a break from the plot and allows Laura and like Eddie to interact for the first time, seeing other characters interact with each other. It also just brings so much life to the game. Whereas that whole scene, Heaven's Night, the cinema/bowling alley, completely cut. Like, you'll know the quote from the bowling alley that everyone loves. I would have loved for James to say that line in the film. Even just that tiny line, I reckon, could have brought me so much joy, and I would have kind of liked the film a bit more if they knew all the references and all the funny lines that James was given in the original, and they decided to put it in the film, and they just completely skipped over that opportunity. And I'm just so disappointed by that. Like, I know it's annoying when people say, oh, well, if I was directing this film, it would have been way better. But if I would have put that line in because it's funny. And everyone who's played the games, it's like, it's funny to the people who's watching this film and has never played the games. That line would just be funny to them. Whereas people in the games would know it's from the game and just be happy about it, that they've included it, because then actually shows you've played the games and understand it. But they just didn't do that, so it didn't really show to me that as much as he said it was a faithful adaptation, it didn't show to me it was really faithful at all. Oh, and a quick note, I didn't talk about the monsters in this film, apart from Pyramid Head, but the spitters, the ones that shoot out vomit, those were done decently well in this film, but they kind of were in the first film anyway, so they were okay. But the mannequins and the nurses, completely botched them. They did not do them well. Full of CGI shit that could have made so much better from actual actors. But whatever. I've said so much negative things already. I just forgot to include them. But don't watch it unless you really want to. But hey, everyone has a right to their own opinions. Okay, so I think that's all I can think of. Yes, it was just kind of this massive rant about me saying how bad the movie is, but as a die-hard Silent Hill 2 fan, being one of my favorite games of all time, this was the movie that I saw that I knew that maybe one day it would get adapted, but since the time has come, I had to go see it just to know. Just to know how they've done it and if it will be any good, because it's Silent Hill 2. I love Silent Hill 2. But then, normally most movies really, I'm not that critical. Like, sure, there might be some movies I'm like, oh, this is amazing, and some movies I'm like, oh, I really don't like this, I hate it. But it's like, everyone has their own opinions. It's all subjective. But this is like one of the first movies, probably because it's a video game adaptation, and it's like one of the first movie adaptations that came from a video game that's actually one of my favorites. Because you have Last of Us, you have Uncharted, you have Mario, you have all those adaptations, but Silent Hill 2 is one of my favorite games ever. So I feel like when watching this movie, I have to think critically, and it's just a bunch of hate because I actually had such high hopes with this film. Well, I had low expectations, but I had some hope that they would pull through, or that when he said faithful adaptation, I was excited he was actually going to own up to his words with this film. And instead, while watching it, straight from the start of the movie, I just felt mad. Because they've ruined all these moments, they haven't included any of the character backstories that made Silent Hill 2 what it is. James just felt kind of empty and felt like there was something lacking in his character because of all the stuff they decided to cut and just not include. Like, if they made this into a series, or even if they do still one day, I'm going to see it and hoping that they can flesh out everything they missed in the movie. Because the movie does not do the game justice. If you want to get that Silent Hill 2 fix, play the game. The game is amazing, both the original and the remake. Remake's more accessible, so you'd probably play that. But it's just better. The movie does not give you that fix. It is so bad in nearly every single area, and it's just not worth seeing. And even if you're thinking of seeing it in the cinemas, watch it just to know how you feel about it. And if you did find something in the film that you enjoyed, I'm happy that you did. I know I just didn't. But yeah, everyone has their own opinions, so feel free to chuck yours in the comments just to see how you feel. But I pretty much said all mine in this video because I was so excited for an adaptation of this game, and for it to just be this bad, I was just so distraught. It's just, it's annoying, and it just made me mad watching it. I watched it all just to know it all, and just to really think critically about it, because I love this franchise and game so much. But if you want to watch a Silent Hill movie, watch the 2006 one. That's honestly better. I haven't actually played the first game, so I don't know how much it's integrated its elements into the movie, but I felt more enjoyment out of the movie without playing the game than watching Silent Hill 2 movie, Return to Silent Hill, and having played the game like 3 or 4 times, and knowing the entire story from the back of my hand. Like, I hope you find something great about this movie, and if you did, that's awesome, but I just couldn't vibe with it. It just wasn't for me. So overall, Return to Silent Hill, disappointing film, failed my expectations, and wasn't very good at faithfully adapting this beloved classic. Probably rating it 2 out of 10. Actually, no. Fuck this movie. Not 2 out of 10. It's a 1 out of 10. It is garbage. I hate it. Why did the creators have to make it? It's 1 out of 10.